This edition of the Tackle. It is the Wednesday of 6th October 2021. Tarehe 6 mwezi ni wa 10 mwezi mwaka 2021. Natumia kwamba uko salama, mamka vizuri na uko tayari kupambana na hali ya siasa siku ya leo kwenye Siasa Wednesday. Kuzungumzia mambo ya nchi na siasa ambayo inaendelea na uongozi na mambo yote ambayo inahusikana nayo. It's a pleasure to have you again this morning. This is a Tackle, the Siasa Wednesday edition of the 6th October 2021. How many months, how many weeks to Christmas? How many days to Christmas? Usually quite 84. I think today is 80 days to Christmas. Merry Christmas in advance. Good to see you guys. And of course, joining, please like. When you like, we get to know that you're watching us. And after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is a Tackle and it begins now. Lakini kama kawaida, lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi basi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu haraka upesi. Mighty Father, we come before you this morning. We worship you, glorify your name. Thank you for another opportunity to be alive. We thank you for this program. Thank you for this conversation. Even as we have it, may it edify the fabric of this country. For we pray, trusting and believing. Amen and amen. Asante sana. Nimeona kuna wangona maamka hapa tayari. Leo hii tuko na KHALENDE ambaye jamaa hapa kuja pale Matayos, jamaa wa UDA wa Wheelbarrow. Tuko pia na MESHACK ODEDE yuko njiani, jamaa wa Chungwa, na pia tuko na HESBON ambaye ni commentator mambo ya kisiasa na pia mawasiliano, ama communication is a communication and political analyst. Okay, so atatu join pale online. He'll be joining us online. HESBON will be joining us online. But ODEDE should be on his way, should be here shortly. But kabla hiyo, niangalie mambo yenu hapa kidogo. Mungu alita continue. Anasema morning team tackle. Tuning in from Covent United Kingdom. Could be part of this morning Siasa Wednesday. Salimia clan number 40 from Matayos. The clan number 40. Aya. Babake Willie, good morning. Good morning to you, Moses Kamo. Good morning, Bishop. Good morning. Uncle Sam says hello to each one of you. Good to see you, my brother. David Beth, good morning. Mark Chirchir, my brother. Good morning, my brother, all the way from the US. Leo uko wapi ndugu yangu? Jua ni very mobile. Niambia uko wapi ndugu yangu leo? Mark Chirchir, my brother, all the way from the US. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know it's late there, but you've joined us this morning. Isabonye Ndamorwa, as good morning watching. I'm in Kiambu. Asante Habi Drizzy, tuned in from Eldoret. Jimmy Kagio, good morning from client from client at 107. Haya, wewe ni client nambari ngapi? Ona leo watu na nambari za maclient. Wewe niambie ni client namba ngapi? Kusema good morning unasema ni client namba ngapi? Haya, Elias Langat, good morning Bitoko, good morning to you. Ila Chepkwan team tackle jambo MCA Tarakwa Ward and KSS constituency is logged in. Bwana Bitoko, asante sana. Thank you so much. Salimiana pale kwenye ground. Jack Limo, morning team tackle ni Jackson Limo kutoka Suswa Narok, tuko ndani kama kawaida. Mnajua siasa ni chakula ya Wakenya. Haya, unajua sasa uchumi iliharibika. Sasa ile imebaki tu ni siasa. Haya, na Mungu bado ni mwema. Nani mwingine hapa naona? Dennis Kurgat watching from Perth. Kazi ni kazi. Asante sana ndugu yangu Dennis Kurgat all the way from Perth, Australia, and all the guys who keep tuning in from Perth, Australia, the land down under. It's always a pleasure to have you. Elibet, good morning, getting you loud and clear. Maria Skipkirui, morning team tackle, good to see you. Koko Iblomeri, good morning. Bitok watching live from Marakwet. Geoffrey Masha, niko kwa jam ya Thika Road, but very tuned. Asante sana Geoffrey Masha. Na mahali mupo tu tackle inakopata na hapo. Abidris, good morning to tackle. Good morning the tackle watching from Eldoret. Asante sana Nixon Rotate, my brother. Good morning, bro. Watching from Lexington, US. Good to see you, my brother Nixon. Rotate tuning in from Lexington, United States of America. Tenai Cleophas, good morning, all. Live from Kipchabo Village 029. Looking forward to today's discussion. Asante sana Tenai Cleophas. Salima watu wa Kipchabo. Kibet Edwin Gildomo anasema good morning, GB. Westlands locked in. Murkomen alienda wapi? Kiulizo halenda tatuambia. LMM wa Modu. Good morning, bro. Watching from Mombasa County, Gileki Boyd, my brother. Good to see you. Good morning, Jera Bitoka. I mean, it's been a while, but I'm back, brother, tuning in from Fayetteville, Arkansas, United States. Asante sana ndugu yangu. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. Gili Kipboy, Kipchumba Kipwambo, Kips mwenyewe anasema good morning from a country where the rich can easily buy a house. Aya, ali livyo, sijue ni clan namba ngapi, mheshimiwa Kips. ni clan namba ngapi. Kareki wa Masi tuned in and following county 047. Caleb Tum, good morning to my brother. Mutisha Nzimi, good morning to tackle, good morning. Ile Chepkwany, utanipigia simu Bitoka. Aya basi nitakupigia kaka. Wanabondirangu favorite morning Gerald watching from Nairobi. Kindly say hi to my fellow youth pale Rehema Kipchamo sublocation KSS constituency pamoja sana. Aya mnasalimiwa sana wangona wa Kipchamo sublocation. Asakongi Black at Abib Hams Day. Good morning the tackle. Hams ni gani? Tutasaidia. Meshak Mwambi, good morning. Bitok Mombasa is watching at sana. TK Wilson, jamaa yangu mungwana sana. Anachapilianga posters haraka upesi. Good morning to you my brother. Lampard Adikatel, good morning and hope you doing well. Karibuni sana this is Siasa Wednesday edition of the 6th October 2021. Na sisi yao tumefika. Tuko na KHALENDE hapa kwa ofisi na kwenye studio. Na tuko kwenye line pale, tuko na HESBON, alafu ODEDE ananiambia atakuwa hapa kwa dakika nyingine 3 ambazo zinakuja. Nimeona pale pia leo Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga na mazungumzo na wanahabari kutoka ama kutoka kwa stations za KHALENDE. Nimeona Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, kwa hiyo pia tutakuwa tukichukua ujumbe hapa na pale kidogo, tusikie baba pale anasemaje, anatuambia vipi, ndio tukirusha kidogo hapa na pale, basi tutaweza kushirikiana. Lakini kabla ya kuingia kazini lazima tuende kwenye masokoni tulipa madeni, kwa sababu tulipa madeni bwana, hapo tutakwama. KHALENDE hapa hajatuletea mshahara, lazima tu tutafute kwa sisi wenyewe. Tuende masokoni kidogo. Na pia kama if you want to advertise with us, you can call me or you can send me an inbox na nambari yako ya simu, alafu basi naweza kupigia simu haraka upesi. Lakini wale ambao wapo tayari, basi lazima tufanyie kazi shwari kabisa ndio tuweze kulipa, tuweze kujaza rent. Nairobi rent lazima ijae. Kwa hivyo Maridadi Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuagiza gari kwa bei nafuu zaidi. If you want to import a car, you can import through Maridadi Motors and get the best deals. You get to save up to 300,000 Kenya shillings. Leo hii pia tuko na offers ambazo zinakimbia pale Maridadi Motors, tutakuja kuwaletea kwa screen baadaye hivi, labda kama Douglas atuambie kama zitakuwa tayari, but we having offers with Maridadi Motors ambazo zinakuja offers safi kabisa, magari kwa bei nafuu zaidi. You can take in also your opportunity to actually own a vehicle through asset finance. Maridadi Motors is giving you an opportunity to own a vehicle through the best deal, and this is the way, that is asset financing. But also you can use their sacco. Kama wewe ni mtu ambaye unaweka akiba pole, you can save up to 50% of the value of the car, alafu basi gari yako inaweza kufika haraka upesi. Kwa hivyo kuna offers ambazo zinakuja pale kwenye screen, utaziona mwenyewe. I think you can just float them on the screen. Douglas unaweza ipeleka tu pale kama ziona vizuri kidogo. Kitu unaweza kimbiza pale uone kuna offer safi zaidi. Kuna offer moja hapo, kuna Subaru Legacy at 1.75 million. Unaweza pata Subaru Legacy, that is the 2014 model. Kama pia unataka Volvo, unaweza pata Volvo X60 model 2014, alafu Mazda Tenza model 2014 as well. Kwa bei nafuu zaidi ya 1.75 million you can get that deal, and on top of it you get to get free comprehensive insurance. Deal nyingine hapo pia ni Maridadi Motors inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kupata gari kwa bei nafuu zaidi 2.5 million. Unaweza pata Mazda CX-5 model ya 2014, ama unapata Subaru Forester model pia 2014, ama unapata pia Mitsubishi Outlander new shape ya 2014 kwa bei nafuu ya 2.45 million, ama pia Volvo C60 kwa bei hiyo ni offer. Na pia juu yake unapata insurance, comprehensive insurance. Kama pia uko na budget yako ndogo ya 750,000, unapata Nissan Note 2014 model, Suzuki Swift pia new model safi hapo sana, alafu pia unapata Toyota Passo model ya 2014 as well. Juu yake pia unaweza kugongana na insurance, free comprehensive insurance ya mwaka mzima. Budget pia 950,000, unapata Honda Fit 2014 model, alafu Mazda Demio pia unaipata na Toyota Vitz pale, alafu juu yake unaweza kupata program safi ama insurance safi sana ya bei nafuu, insurance ya comprehensive insurance for all year. You get all these deals only at Maridadi Motors. Please rush in while the offers and the stocks last. Pia kama unajenga, mbunge wa Mathayo is building uko nyumbani. Na pia Rex Roofing inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuweka paa safi zaidi. I usually tell you this, that your roof is your house's legacy. Kama unajenga nyumba na hujafanya roof safi, kwa hivyo hiyo si ujenzi umefanya. Hivyo pale ukitaka kujenga, enda kimbia pale Rex Roofing, wanakupea quality roofing shingles kwa bei nafuu zaidi, different profiles, na pia wanakupa stone coated tiles ambayo inakaa safi zaidi. Na pia kama ushajenga na unataka kufanya kitu inaitwa water harvesting, PVC water harvesting gutters from Rex Roofing ensures that you can have a safe water. Na juzi Irene alikuwa hapa akasema ya kwamba maji that you've harvested using Rex roofs is the best. I mean, it's clean and it's safe for consumption. Only roofs done by Rex. And I can guarantee you this. I don't know where you will be in the next 50 years, but I can guarantee you that your roof will still be there with you. Also, Rex Roofing is giving you an offer this Customer Care Week. Customer Care Week is giving you 10% off all waterproofing projects. Kama unafanya waterproofing, unakupa 10%. Asilimia 10 off on offer. 10% off all the projects you're going to do waterproofing projects, unapata 10% off your budget. Unapata offer ya 10% kwa hii wiki ya customer care. Kwa hivyo kama unafanya waterproofing, tafadhali kimbia pale Rex Roofing unaweza kupata offer safi sana ya 10% on waterproofing membranes and waterproofing solutions. Any waterproofing you're going to do, you're going to get 10% off. So kimbia pale Rex Roofing, www.rexroofing.com, alama upige simu kwenye nambari ya simu ambayo iko pale kwenye screen yako, www.rexroofing.com. Rex Roofing roofs your world. Kama pia unapiga mambo ya airtime haraka upesi, unaenda pale 325 enda baby luweka 325 akanomba nambari yako ya simu. Na pia kama pia unasukuma mzigo pale, Zigo anakupa nafasi ya kuweza kusukuma mzigo wako kwa njia shwari zaidi. Na kama pia unataka kung'ara, kama unataka kwenda Rorajua kama Kalende hapa, unanunua nguo safi zaidi pale D Square Wear, unahakikisha kwamba umeng'ara. Eldoret Ketia Building 4th floor. Aya, yo Kalende, good morning.
Good morning my brother.
You well?
I'm good man.
Good to see you.
Yes.
Mimi
nimefurahi sana. Nimekuwa kwa muda miezi 2-3 hivi.
Yes. Umekaa sana bwana.
Unajua hii Nairobi vile umesema, lazima tulipe bills kama wanaume.
Lazima rent ijae.
Lazima rent ijae.
Aya, naona ni kama mungwana mwenzetu pale ameingia tayari. Ndio kama HESBON iko pale kwenye line tayari. HESBON, good morning. HESBON, good morning sir.
Good morning, Gerald.
How are you?
I am fine, and you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I hope you can see me.
Yes, I can see you, sir. Can you see me?
Thank you. Well, I can see your still picture.
But at least that is almost an impression of me.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good to see you, my brother. It's your first time on the tackle as well. I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, it's my first time. I hope the tackles are not going to be hard and flying. My name is HESBON Hansen OWILLA. I am a student of political communication, and I think I have this privilege of getting spaces where I can talk about the Kenyan politics from my own understanding as a student of political communication and media studies. Yes.
Okay. Haya, nimeona pia unazungumzianga mambo ya kisiasa pale. Communication na politically ama kisiasa zinaingiana mahali kidogo.
Yes.
Haya, kwa njia yako mwenyewe unaona state of the nation ni kwaje? What is the state of the nation?
Kwa njia yangu, I think well, we live in a country that is fairly political. So almost every week unapata kuna something really hot that emerges.
Yes.
And essentially you're looking at a situation where different political players want to define the key issues as we move into 2022. So every other week there has to be an issue, and as politicians are good at this, they'll always try as much as possible to ensure that the issue in the public domain is an issue that when discussed will build into their clout and work to their advantage. And I think in the recent past, that is what we've seen. We've seen the Pandora letters. We've seen the issue of corruption. We've seen Baba traverse, this country from Mount Kenya to Northeastern Province. I think COVID is still with us, the issue of vaccination. And of course, there are other major issues that we are not talking about, which I guess we need to pronounce. The issue of CBC, and of course, the issue of, schooling, paying for, school against the backdrop of what the pandemic has done to us, a very crash program in terms of the return to school, formula that the Ministry of Work came up with. So our kids just closed school and they're opening next week. And I think we are not talking about that enough. Yet it's a very pertinent issue today because most parents are actually struggling.
Okay. KHALENDE, nasikia ndugu yetu kidogo hapa amezungumza, lakini nipe nafasi tu dakika moja nimalizane nao wangu hapa kidogo ndio wapumzike tuendelee kwenye mjadala. Lampard Adikariansa, good morning. MC Ken, good morning. Jiro, good morning to you MC. Lampard Adikatel Bomen ndani, asante. Johnson Abwao anasema morning GB, logged in from Kiserian, asante sana watu wa Kiserian. Purity Mboga, good morning, watching live from Western Vihiga. Brian Kibet, good morning. Please I highlight that topic about Treasury paying shillings 1.8 billion to motorists kutoka Kaptich Nandi. I think that's another topic that you need to note, gentlemen. Lampan Ngadij watching, Kiproti Langat, good morning. Addressing the tackle City of Champions, Celestine Sikurgat, good morning. Then I clear first. Mr. Bitok, there was an unfair and unjust airing of clerks in our Kaptel Kamoyu award. We never got even one clerk as Kombe location. Yet there were 6 clerks and we have 4 locations. We have several attending the interview, but none got it, including graduates. And to me, hiyo ujumbe inbox alafu yani utafanya. Abraham Jalanga, good to see you. It's been a long time. Good morning, Bitok, catching you live from Eldoret, City of Champions, Lakoske E. Good morning, Bitok. John Ndiki Wanaina, good morning all. Rabi Lennox Lanaola, Raila anasema kwa Chamgei FM that Arab Mibei ni yule aja change na wakalenjin walimpigia kura 2017 wenye watamuelect tena 2022. Haya, Mungu ni mwema. Dan Meli, good morning. Thanks Gerald, you always empower our mornings. Good to see you my brother. Asante sana Dan Meli from Danwill Investments. Amon Biwat, good morning. Peter Kodek Amunga, Musalia Mudavadi, presidency is looming. Haya, ni akala nyakanga. Steve Mfalme Thika Road bila wanasema angalia Standard newspaper ya leo, the unexplored Musalia Mudavadi factor in 2022. Haya basi taiona. Haya aja nirudi kwako wangwana. Nimeona kuna watu wananyuki, kuna kama offside na kuona anasema mtu wa Nyeri, Kayemba Wandamusi anasema tuned in from the great county of Trans Nzoia. Good to see you guys. Rael Terry pia na kuona, asante sana. Anasema hopa kuje Matayus. Haya. Halende, what's the state of the nation?
Personally, on the state of the nation, it's basically the Pandora's paper, the normal campaigns towards 2022. But as an individual, I would like to focus on a registration drive, the IEBC registration drive that is ongoing. Because, and this is my message to the youth and the women in this country. If the future of humanity is decided in your absence because you are too busy feeding and clothing your children, just know at the time of the consequences of the leadership that will have decided on in your absence, you will be there and your kids to pay for it. And the Jubilee government has proved to us that if we can elect a government that cannot actually articulate its issues and make sure that it performs its issues, then the people suffer. And the anger that I'm seeing in Kenyans, the issues that we are raising as Kenyans, we can only correct them at the ballot. The only democratic recognized way of choosing leaders in a democracy like Kenya is through the ballot. So let us come out, let us register as youth, where IBC is targeting to register fresh voters to a tune of 7 million. I am saying that it's possible for us to register the 9 million Kenyans who are not yet registered. And in fact, it is my proposal that in the next phase of us amending our electoral laws, we should consider of making sure that at the moment you are picking your ID, identification card, you should be automatically registered as a voter, so that every Kenyan can perform his civic duty of electing leaders. Because at the end of the day, we start wondering, how do we have some leaders who cannot articulate issues in parliament, who cannot participate in legislation, who cannot issue decisions that help the people of his constituency? It's because we do not vote, we do not participate in politics, because we have said siasa ni ya wanasiasa peke yake. As a Kenyan, a rightful Kenyan, it is your civic duty. So I want to urge the youth, let us not hide in our sofa sets and tweet, Facebook, and you go on Instagram. The other night, Instagram
disappeared
and Facebook disappeared, but our leaders were there. So you cannot hide in Twitter and Facebook on hashtags. Let us register and have voter card, so that in 2022 we can choose leaders who can articulate issues, who can raise our problem, who can offer solution to the economic problem that we are having today.
Haya, let's delve straight into the issues that is running on the newspapers, both locally and internationally. I'll start with you, HESBON. Pandora's box, Pandora's paper. Which clan number are you? What's your number? HESBON. Your clan number?
Well, I'm trying to figure out what clan number means, but let me just speak to the Pandora's papers. I think what there are so many issues that emerge from what many people are terming as an expose. For me, it is not. For the simple reason that if this was something that was of public interest to Kenyans, it wouldn't really be, released the way it has been released, like a hot air balloon, to see the reactions of Kenyans. And essentially, and probably you're a journalist, you know this, the essence of investigative journalism is based on suspicion of wrongdoing that affects the public. So there has to be some public interest dimension that gives the investigator or the journalist that grounding to go dig deep. And when I look at the Pandora's papers, and I keep asking myself, what drove this? What was the public interest dimension in all this? And there can only be one conclusive answer at this point, that there's a sense in which, certain quarters of the political class wants to make, corruption a non-issue, and essentially it is not really a question of serving the interest of Kenyans. It is a question of ensuring that if there is anyone who is a party to, the run to 2022, they are as dirty as they can be in the eyes of the public, with or without valid evidence. Okay. And I think that is something that whoever is behind this has achieved. They've managed to bring in the name of the president. You try and look at where the interest of the public is, look at the dates that they're talking about, look at the substantive issues that they're raising, and you realize that at the end of the day, what they want to do is just muddy the water and create a picture that everyone is involved in corruption, so that if you were to talk about the journey to 2022, corruption, should be out of the issues. Why? Simply because if corruption becomes an issue and there are substantive allegations of corruption against certain people, which are within the public domain, have been discussed in our legal system, it will disadvantage them. And this now becomes a subject of, a ploy, just to ensure that the credibility and the belief that Kenyans have in the fight against corruption is questioned and is punctured. Because if you look at it critically, they always say that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. And to a large extent, you can actually tell that there's a sense in which corruption is fighting back. And because the president has been at the forefront, giving the political goodwill, in the fight against corruption. We've seen ministers get convicted. We've seen them get arraigned in court. We have governors who have, fallen off because of corruption. And I mean, unless there is something substantive, and most investigative pieces actually create pathways for most investigative journalism pieces create pathways for investigative agencies, to follow up on issues. But you look at the Pandora's papers, I mean, what pathways are they creating? Are they trying to tell us that in 2003, the president, had the control of government coffers? I mean, the president in 2003 had just lost an election. And he was, an opposition leader, of course, official opposition leader, with very little clout in terms of resources. So even the timelines, the dates that are being given, you'd actually see that someone went on a fishing expedition with a very clear objective to just ensure that if we are going to canvass politics as we, in the run-up to the 2022 general election, corruption is put aside.
All right. So you feel it didn't do the much that you would imagined it should have done?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't, because I mean, there are certain.
Has it raised any concerns with you? Do you find any concerns that you think should raise with you?
Okay, yeah, there are concerns that are raised, yeah, because corruption is a big issue. Yeah. So there are concerns that are raised. But now, if you look at the substance of the concerns that are raised, you know, and the 5 critical questions that you need to ask yourself when you're dealing with an investigative piece. First of all, an investigative piece is something that is born out of a serious suspicion that there's something happening in the public, in a democracy, that is of public interest and warrants thorough investigation. And therefore, there's resources that are dedicated. There's some substantive issues that even allows the journalist or whoever is investigating to use surreptitious methods. And now that brings us to the question of, so what exactly is public interest? Because that has also been contested. Yeah. And this is the thing, that for it to be a public interest thing, there must be 3 critical things. First, it must be an issue that involves public officials who are actually enjoying the privileges of being in an office, courtesy of taxpayers' money, and they are in charge of a big chunk of taxpayers' money. That is one. And then number 2, it must be of criminal nature or a gross misdemeanor. Then number 3, it must touch on national security or public health. So if you look at these 3, there's only some little element of public interest, that corruption is a serious issue in this country. But even with that little element of public interest, you ask yourself, are we talking about a public official who is enjoying the state or public resources in whatever they are doing in the interest of the public? They are controlling public resources, and have they taken those public resources? And you come back to the timelines, you're talking about 2003. And then number 2, you're talking about a family. And there's no way you can say that a family is controlling state resources. A member of that family could be the president. And you see, the gap here is almost 20 years. The gap is 20 years. And I remember in the 2013 general election, the presidential debate, there was also the question that was raised, the question of land ownership. And it was raised in the presidential debate. And I remember what Raila Odinga, who was President Uhuru Kenyatta's main rival, said, that you cannot ask President Uhuru Kenyatta of the things that happened, during his dad's regime. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta himself was very clear that the land that his family acquired was based on willing seller, willing buyer. Now, that debate in itself was a very substantive platform where Kenyans were getting information on which they were going to base their decisions. 2013, they looked at all the factors and they still gave President Uhuru Kenyatta the power. Now, if you consider 2013, them giving President Uhuru Kenyatta the power, and then all these Pandora papers coming in, and they're talking about 2003, when he didn't have that power, they're talking about a family. And you even ask yourself, what are the substantive issues that they're raising? At what point do we have substantive glaring, misuse of state power, misuse of procedures, contravention of the rule of law to take money out of the public coffers for personal interest? I mean, those papers are not telling us that, but they've certainly succeeded in creating an impression, and this is the impression of, don't blame me if I'm corrupt, because what about the other person? What about this other entity that is fighting corruption? That, for me, is the impression that, the papers have succeeded in creating. And it is very unfortunate that when we keep discussing this, we are running away from the real issue of corruption and creating the perception that everyone is corrupt, which is erroneous for me.
Okay. All right. KHALENDE, you've had our brother HESBON. As a karibu sana ODEDE, you are fired. You cannot be coming to a show at 8 a.m.
I have a good reason.
Na tulikuwa tumeanza kutafutia Biblia ukule uingie bunge. We are revoting. Aya.
Mr. Odede, karibu sana.
Thank you, Joe.
One thing I want to highlight on this issue of offshore account is that my brother HESBON OWILLA he has a right to his opinion. But one thing that comes out from this offshore account or from this Pandora's paper, it is that the Kenyattas have entered the history books to the same level of the Guptas of South Africa, who have captured the state of South Africa. The Kenyattas have entered the books with the likes of Mabutu Sese Seko, with the likes of Chris Okemo, my village mate, with the likes of Gishuru, with the likes of Sani Abacha. One funny thing about this Pandora's paper leak is that all those people who have been named majorly from third world countries are families or people who are running a country where the economy of the country or the common mwananchi in that country is suffering. But for them, they are starting wealth in tax haven areas. And how, if this money is legitimate the way some people like HESBON or OWILLA want us to believe, why will you start it in another country? So that why will you start it? Because the only money that you can start, if it's you are laundering money, if you are evading taxes, and if it's corruption money. But if it's legitimate money, you will have it in this country. The other thing is this: it proves that even the president and his family do not trust the systems that he's in charge of, to an extent that he goes ahead and hides the money outside there. Why are you know, if you want Kenyans to believe this story, or if you want Kenyans to see this story the way it's supposed to be seen, this thing is immoral. This thing is bad manners, it's barbaric. To an extent that, and the way my brother Odede is smiling, this is the right time that the elder brother of Uhuru Kenyatta, who is Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, should prove to Kenyans that he still believes in the principles and values that he stood for since time immemorial. This is the time for the elder brother to ask his younger brother, why are you hiding the money in foreign accounts? Where did the Eurobond money go? Because this is the same money. And if you want to understand the complex nature of this thing, and I want Kenyans to continue following this story about from the Panama story to this Pandora story. This is the same money which goes outside there through the secrecy and complicated structures in the corporate world that end up coming back in this Kenya through the private, through public-private partnership. Okay. So we are borrowing the money of certain individuals in this country who are enjoying the systems and the privileges of being leaders in this country. So it's bad manners, it's immoral. In fact, I'm lacking some words to express.
I am patient enough.
Yeah, you need to be patient, because this is the bad manners that we are talking about in this country. And by mentioning the people within the Pandora's paper, it doesn't mean we are releasing those who have been mentioned in other corruption cases. The simple thing here is this. We know corruption as bribery in this country. We know corruption about people taking from public coffers, but this also is corruption where people are taking advantage of loopholes in the laws that we have. Because within our system, it is prohibited for state officers to have foreign accounts. But there's a leeway whereby they are allowed. After the legislation, Parliament has never legislated on the issues. And if there's a declaration form in this country, the state officers are supposed to declare these accounts. But in this case, we are not being told if Uhuru Kenyatta and the Kenyatta family have ever declared this wealth. And among the 13 accounts, it's only one account that we have been told it's holding 3.5 billion. So let's assume the other 12 accounts are holding at a tune of 5 to 6 billion. We are talking about a family starting over 45 billion in a foreign account. And the country today is suffering. Our economy is going down the drain. So this is immoral. It is bad manners. There is no way we can sugarcoat it. There is no way you can spin this thing. The truth of the matter is that we need an explanation. The other time, Uhuru Kenyatta promised us to explain where COVID money disappeared after 21 days. Up to today, Uhuru Kenyatta has never given us an explanation as a country where the 45 billion COVID money disappeared to. Unless how we count days, it's different from what how the president count days, because according to me, it's over a year now. Now, he needs to come out. He has said that he's going to explain. This time round, the moment he lands at JKIA, he needs to have a speech to explain to this country how his family members, among the people who are starting this money, is the famous sister who forged documents of being disabled to acquire tenders in the Afia house. So these are clear trend within these people. Among the money that is touched in the foreign accounts is the money from poaching in our game reserves. So this is immoral. This is bad manners. There is no way ODM is going to protect these people.
A disclaimer: any accusations that any panelist makes here is personal. It doesn't represent our opinion as the tackle. Sasa kama kuna mambo ya poaching sheria ndio mtaenda kungangana huko. Haya, Odede. Jambo.
Si jambo.
Which clan number are you? Because I think since you've been participating on the tackle, I think you're making some moolah out there.
It is supposed to be secret. The first rule is it is supposed to be secret. So
you wait for an expose on you.
So my brother Joe has just made some wild allegations.
Why are you late first? It's very dangerous.
It is very dangerous. Gerard, my organization is hosted.
My
office is hosted by the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. But just the other day, the president gave executive order which took the entire social protection to another ministry. So I was just passing, I thought it was around 15 minutes and coming here to see the PS. But it took longer than I thought. But nevertheless, we are here. Now we are under Madam C.S. Kobia. We moved, not physically, but now reporting. So that is why it took a little bit of a time. Okay. But let me come to the discussion on the table. I do not want to get into all those allegations Joe has made on this issue, because I don't have evidence that this money could be some of the monies that Joe says. But I want to agree with OWILLA on two things, that the dates are confirming that this thing has come a long way, not just a thing of the other day, meaning this offshore account is not a thing of today. It's not something that has just begun today. It began way in the times of Mobutu, like he says, and in the time of other African giants who ruled there before. So the Kenyatta's family were there as well. Remember, Kenyatta was our first president.
They're also Sesekoing.
They have been looting since time immemorial.
Whether they have been looting, that one I don't know. I just know they have money. And I know not everybody who has money has looted. I have some little, but I don't remember looting them from anywhere. So I want to imagine that somebody also has more, which he didn't loot, or maybe he looted, but until I have evidence. But two things are very critical to me, Gerard. We have been progressing in our constitution as a country, and we have been progressing on our legislations. And recently, of late, we have been talking about lifestyle audits, and we've been talking about wealth declaration. If there is one positive thing I know about that Pandora's leak, it will be around those two areas, so that we may strengthen it even further, because having offshore accounts will not stop. It is not illegal, and I'm glad Joe has mentioned it is immoral, but morality might be left for, judging morality is not very easy like judging a legal thing or illegal thing. So morality is where OWILLA was bringing the aspect of maybe someone is bringing this so that we can all say, after all, even the president is stealing. I mean, if I was planning to steal anything, I should just go ahead because everyone is doing this, including the president. It doesn't matter what he keeps saying, whether he says we are fighting corruption or not, but it seems like everyone has something they have stolen. And then it makes corruption
So you're only paying lip service.
Yeah, then corruption become a normal thing and the abnormal becomes the normal, something like that. But I want to say, if we would use this to better anything in our country, in our legal system, to me it would be on those two areas. The area of lifestyle audit. Do we have a comprehensive framework that gives us real lifestyle audit of our leaders that are there and that will be there, so that in the next generation of our children, they do not be surprised when Pandora leaks another thing, that back in 2002, MESHACK had 2 or 3 accounts in UK or in America or in Dubai, and they feel like that's a huge thing, that's a big corruption, even before they are told what exactly transpired. Because if lifestyle audit happens very well before I get into the office, everybody will be already knowing what I am worth, the kind of businesses that I do, and how much they bring per year or otherwise. Then if somebody says 20 years later that as early as 2020 I had 1 or 2 accounts in UK, it will not surprise anyone and it will not be taken immediately like corruption. They will just know that guy has been in business and has been running on this and that. Apparently, if it is not said correctly and directly what kind of business I am involved in, any money that I have, even if you just gave me as a token, will be counted as corruption, because people will be asking, where did you get this money from? That's it. So what makes the whole thing corruption to me is not that the paper only tells us there is money. And then the paper goes ahead and tells us how complex, how deep it is hidden. But the paper does not tell us where the money came from. Yeah? Where the money was gotten. So I think it is upon now our investigative agencies to find out where did the money originate from. If they ever find out that the money originated from an illegal business or way, then we have a case to talk about in terms of corruption. As a country now, we leave the rest of the world out and we discuss the issue as a country. This is corruption. Mr. President, you must pay for this, or the family must pay for this. For me, it doesn't matter whether these things happened before he was president or not, because if I am caught today with a phone like this, and police says this phone was stolen from Gerard, it won't be an issue whether I got it legally or not. They will say handling stolen property is against the law, irrespective. So it will be like I am going in because I was found with a phone that was stolen from Gerard. It is now upon me to find out whether the person who sold to me is available to answer the other question of stealing, but I will be answering a different question of handling the stolen property. So in that aspect, I want to say if there are 2 positive things that I see about this whole issue of Pandora Papers, it is those 2 areas. Do we have enough framework that tells about lifestyle audit in reality, not the lifestyle audit in the lips of politicians on podiums of funerals and rallies and all that. A real lifestyle audit that tells where it begins and how it goes and where it ends and how it is declared And then the second area is that wealth declaration. Today, they might be signing some forms, but where are those forms? Can any agency go and retrieve those forms in our party?
And verify on ground as
Most
well.
likely, it is not possible. It is just said, I have signed the wealth declaration form, but they are always in somebody's box somewhere and sometimes cannot even be traced. But as a public servant, especially number one and the high ranking, every Kenyan, those things should be even online. We should actually be able to just go online and find out how much is Uhuru Kenyatta worth. Even by the time people are going for election, like...
And we should see their Panama account.
Exactly. Like today we are going for elections. We should just know how much is Raila Odinga worth. And we should know there is this at Pangas, there is this at real estate, he has this inside the country, and he has this outside the country. So when he's president after 10 years, and probably somebody like Rosemary Jr. or Winnie 20 years later wants to be a government or a high-ranking politician in the country, we don't begin to say, as 20 years ago, the family had many accounts, client number this and number that, and make that look like corruption. It should just have been known.
Another question that I think...
Then lastly, just before your question, lastly, I think there is one thing we also need to know. We need to know that people are allowed to have accounts anywhere across the world. And that does not make you a corrupt person. The countries we operate in as businessmen and women have different laws. In Kenya, we all agree on this table that Nini is very, very high. The corporate tax in Kenya is very, very high. So if I had made a 10 million this morning and I have an opportunity of reinvesting that money, and there is an opportunity in another country where maybe the corporate tax is way lower or half what Kenya is charging, I can assure you I will prefer to take that money there and make more money while paying lesser tax than I can pay in Kenya. So these are some of the many reasons that make other people with enough money diversify their investments. Number two, things like political instability in Africa largely makes many people, once at a certain point, people, especially people who run their business on Forex, at a certain point, they prefer taking all this money to another place where the Forex is growing with a lot of stability because the politics. Germany just went through the election and you couldn't feel anything. Meaning, if anybody is trading on Forex exchange or whatever there will be no instability that we can see in 2022, 2017, or any other time we have had election. But sometimes when you take the money and have those accounts and trade there, you realize if you are a man with means, you realize sometimes you don't want to bring that money back because you can make another money from here. So that goes into the question of moral, but not really legal. Okay. So if there is anything that has happened so far up to now, before the investigative agencies come in and tell us where did that money come from, we are still dealing with the moral question. Okay. But like I said at the beginning, how do we judge moral, especially when we are here? You are a pastor, I am a believer. We both know Jesus just said, go and sin no more. Even me cannot judge you. Thank you.
I missed the ODEDE of 2017. Now, there are two questions that come up, and I want us to start. Two questions that come up. One of the things is, I know most of you guys are do business as well, including OWILLA, who's joining us online. I don't know if one of you has tried to move $1 million. If you ever tried to move $1 million into the country or outside the country. The second question is, in a country that right now we're talking about business that are closing up, international companies that have been winding up, and the president has come out and he said all these cases we are getting from business, and I keep wondering, I mean, what kind of a masterstroke businessman do you need to be to thrive in an economy that's collapsing and be able to make billions? Because I think the report also outlined, it has outlined as well how much has been gained from 2013 to date, and this is in billions, tens of billions. Companies have collapsed. I've done business. I know how painful it is to run business in this country, and you will keep wondering, does it mean that this one family as the masterstroke of business, that it can thrive in an economy that is collapsing? And I'll start with you, HESBON, as well. Those two questions. I don't know if you will try to move 1 million, Bob, inside or outside the country. And two, I don't know if you try to do business. And how do you feel as a businessman if someone told you today you're making billions in the same economy and you're making losses? Does that ring a bell? HESBON, are you there?
Yes.
So how did 3.8 billion, just one account, get to Panama from Kenya? And two, have you tried doing business? Have you tried moving money? And as a business person who runs business in this country, do you feel the pain of the economy?
Let me start with, have I tried doing business? Maybe I've not in the scale that you're talking about of moving millions and billions. But I've had a career in the banking industry. And I know nothing is impossible. Even if you wanted to move 1 billion, 3 billion, you can. And the only thing you need is a source document that the bank will actually ask you, why are you moving this money? If you're paying HESBON, you can't just decide that I'm paying HESBON 1 million. The bank will ask you, you're sending this RTGS to HESBON. Why are you sending this RTGS to HESBON? There has to be clarity that HESBON has provided this service, HESBON has delivered these goods, and this is the invoice, and we are making payment. So I think the issue of how money moves is not as critical as was this money proceed of crime. Because movement of money, even today, banks are making transactions, and that is how banks make money. I mean, most banks make money because of an account called current account. So a current account is a transit account. Money gets in and out. They make the least amount of money from savings account because there is no movement there. So there is movement of money. Today, money is moving. The critical issue is, are there enough sources that back this movement of money? And I mean, if there's a serious expose that you're talking about, those are the issues they should be telling us. That this money moved and this money originated from these coffers, and this is a public coffer. And I can tell you, as we speak right now, there isn't anything close to that in the Panama, papers. Then the second question you asked was doing business in Kenya, in this economy. And I think many people have bastardized the Kenyan economy. We've said so much about our economy doing poorly because we have certain indicators. Business are closing down. But I think we also need to look at it critically. At what point, because there's this whole idea of framing issues to fit certain conversations. So right now, when someone says that the economy has been doing poorly and business are collapsing, even a business that collapsed because of COVID-19, a business that collapsed because of mismanagement will be framed in such a way that you blame the regime, and it's easy to do that. It's fairly easy to do that, whip emotion in public rallies and tell people that, people are losing jobs. People are losing jobs, yes, but jobs are also created, Now, why am I saying that? And I'm not saying that it's all rosy in this country. No, there are challenges that we have. But look at the time when President Kibaki left power. What was our GDP? Because, I mean, we cannot reinvent the wheels. There is a way in which an economy is assessed. I mean, there are parameters and indicators. The first and the most important one is the gross domestic product. So what was our GDP in 2013 when President Kibaki was leaving power? It was 45 billion USD. Now, this has grown. Today, our GDP is at 102 billion USD. So you cannot be generic and just say that, the economy has just collapsed, we are doing poorly. You can't, because we can't be doing poorly in an economy whose GDP has grown. But does it mean that there are no issues that are pertinent as far as economic development is concerned? There are issues, because we've made more millionaires. We've graduated millionaires to billionaires, but we've not had a substantive economic growth at the macro level, because there are two levels. There is the macro and the micro. So at the micro, at the individual level, where I'm looking at my well-being as HESBON, how much am I taking home? what am I able to save, my expenditure, how much am I able to invest? I think that is where we have a gap. And if anyone is talking about the economy, I think it is very critical that they now cascade that discussion to a level where they are speaking to the microeconomic level. At the top, we are doing so well. At the macro, we are doing so well. GDP has grown. If you look at the exports, if you look at the opportunities that the government has managed to create in the last 4 years, with the port of Lamu, the port of Kisumu, the number of exports that we are now seeing going out of this country, the opportunities that have been opened, for serious investment by people at the micro level are massive. And what we need is to have a conversation on how then do we tap on this? How do we enhance, the subsistence farmers? How do we move, the small business organizations to a level where they have enough capital that does not interfere with their working capital? How do we boost the SMEs to a level where they contribute more to the national revenue? Those are the conversations that we should have. But politicians will run away from that and go for the populists, and the popular catchphrases that people are doing badly, people are losing jobs. Because when you say people are losing jobs, anyone who has lost a job will feel that. But there are also people who are getting jobs, So I think those are my responses to you. But I also needed to give a bit of a rebuttal to what ANALYST and MESHACK said. And these are the things that I have to say about the Panama Papers. One, it is a good thing that those papers came out, because now we will focus our discussion on the war on corruption, personal wealth and transparency, because that is critical. We need to just understand that there's a war on graft, there's personal wealth, but the critical issue is not personal wealth. The critical issue is, what is the relationship between corruption, this personal wealth, and how transparent are we? And I want to believe that this will not just be a question of besmarting individuals, but it will be a question of digging deep and being as transparent as we can. Then number two, I think even the president has made it very clear that he will give his own statement, and he's accountable. He had an interview with BBC and made it clear that he'll be accountable. Number three, that report is like the Forbes list of the richest people in the world. It is basically documenting rich people and what they own. That is what it has told us. The issue that would touch on corruption, which that report has not touched on or has flippantly touched on, is the money that is held offshore. Where did it originate from? And did it originate from proceeds of crime? And this is something that it has not told us. And it is unfortunate that not many people will get to that level of interrogating whether there is any criminal culpability. Why? Because the perception has already been created. So there are people who will run with that perception. And you can actually see political formation have picked elements of the Panama Papers, and they're running with it in their own framing, So those are major issues that will emerge. And just like MESHACK and ANALYST said, when the law is pitted against morality, morality will suffer. And this is what we are talking about. Legally, you realize that there's nothing substantive here. But on the moral front, you realize that morality suffers. Because if you are accused of something and the threshold within the law cannot hold you culpable, the impression that is created is that you are immoral and you're succeeding. And that is how morality suffers. And that's how we've, over time, glorified corruption. We've paraded people who are not corrupt as corrupt. And we've made it clear that the allegation, have given people prominence in the public domain. But then the legal process has found them not corrupt. And what does that entrench? It entrenches in the psyche of young Kenyans who are growing up, the fact that if you're corrupt, you'll get to walk the corridors of power. If you're corrupt, you'll get to enjoy, certain privileges. If you are corrupt and you are called by EACC, other MPs will come and flank you and say they are supporting you. Why are we doing that? Because we run to the public domain. We run to the media with stories that don't get to the legal threshold. And from where I sit, and I think I've been saying this enough times, if there's any corrupt allegation, we don't need to bring it to the public domain. What we need in the public domain is conviction. That this was a public officer who misused public offers. He's been convicted. Because if we run to the public domain and there is no conviction, simply because it didn't meet the legal threshold, what then we end up creating is the illusion that corruption is good, which is very unfortunate. But lastly, because I am a teacher, let me just say that there are 5 critical questions. Anyone who is thinking about the Pandora Papers should think of these 5 critical questions, because they are at the core of investigative journalism. 1, whose interest does this expose serve? So the publishing of these Pandora's papers, we need to ask yourself, whose interests are they serving? I mean, they're useless unless they are serving societal interests. Absolutely useless. So we may need to ask ourselves, to what extent are they serving the Kenyans' interests? If they are not, they're useless. And from where I sit, I cannot prescribe whether they are useless or not, but that is for Kenyans to decide. Number 2, does the expose, and here I'm talking about the Pandora's papers, fulfill the social responsibility in revealing wrongdoing? Now, if it reveals some social responsibility in wrongdoing, then it benefits the public. But if you look at this, so where is the wrongdoing? Are we saying that someone cannot have money? Are we saying that people don't have offshore accounts? Are we saying that if you're a private citizen outside there, you cannot have an offshore account? It is not illegal. So is there any wrongdoing that has been revealed and that responsibility attached to an individual? Again, it is for Kenyans to interrogate and find out what exactly is the wrongdoing. Then number 3, whose interests are being affected? So if we affect the interest of these individuals who have been mentioned, who benefits most? Is it the society or individual? And I think I've talked about this, that there is a political dimension to this, and it is tied to the conversations towards 2022, that if we affect certain interests, if we dismantle this narrative about an objective fight against corruption, then corruption will not be an issue. And therefore, the interests of certain political formations are likely to be served. And then there is an interest that is affected. Then number 4, whose rights are being invaded. And this is very critical, because when individual acts affect the public good and the invasion of privacy is in the public interest, then there is a greater good that is served. But in this case, you realize that there is an invasion of privacy of individuals. But on the other hand, it is not clear how the public good is being served. When you mention a family, when you talk about figures, you may want to ask yourself, to what extent are you invading on their privacy? And you have a right to invade on any privacy, so long as there's a public interest good that is served. But for as long as this public interest does not exist, and to me it doesn't exist, unless someone tells me how this is serving the interest of Kenyans, I would actually say that this is an affront on the privacy of individuals. And there are also allegations of how this information has been retrieved, and I think that is for people to interrogate. How was it retrieved? Why now? What means did they use? And who are these 700 or so journalists from all over the world? And then lastly, is the issue at stake? Is the issue at stake a matter of public interest, or is it just a question of spurious invasion of public of private space with no crucial public interest at stake. And I can tell you that we are talking about the Panama Papers. We are talking about individuals who own money. And I think MESHACK has talked about you can have money, and it is never a crime if you make your money. It is a crime if that money is proceeds of crime. If it is a crime if you hold public office and you take advantage of the privilege that the public has given you to hold that office to steal from the public.
Okay.
Now, if you look at this critically and the timelines, I'll still go back to the timelines and take it back to Kenyans. What exactly is at stake here? And I would say that there are two things that could be at stake. One is the reputation of the president. For expedient political reasons, people want to do whatever they want to do with that reputation, especially against the backdrop of the fight against corruption. And then the other thing that is at stake is a criminal offense, which does not exist. And that leads us to just one conclusion. An affront on the reputation of the president. And, the bigger picture here to me is that when you dent the image of the president as far as the fight against corruption is concerned, then corruption becomes a non-issue in this election. And you can walk around this country and tell people about bottoms-up economy. You can walk around this country and tell people that we are going to change the economy of this country. You can walk around this country and say we are going to create jobs, but no one will ask you. For you to create these jobs, the dragon that we have to slay first is corruption.
Okay.
For as long as people want to run away from corruption, then there's nothing you're talking about.
All right.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Before I go and read the comments, I want to ask you a question as well, HESBON. Because you've drawn this, you've actually drawn almost a parallel comparison or a parallel conflict between this expose and the fight against corruption. Do you feel the president has been committed to the fight against corruption?
I think
to an extent that you say there are people who have an intention of puncturing his initiative of fighting corruption. Do you think he's been committed to fighting corruption?
You see, I would say that there are enough indicators, to tell us that there has been commitment to the fight against corruption.
Which are the conditions?
We see the multi-agency approach. You see, that right now we are not just talking about EACC. We have EACC, we have DCI, we have DPP, and then we have the asset recovery. You see, and what happens is, and this Kenyans may not know, that the asset recovery comes in to recover any asset that you cannot explain. So if the legal threshold is not met, there is another thing. You have this money. Where did you get this money? And on that front, I think we've succeeded to some level because we've seen assets recovered. We've seen bank account frozen. We've seen people who cannot explain how they acquired, resources against the backdrop of their holding of public offices arraigned in court, including my governor, Governor Okoth Obado. We've seen that. And then we've seen 2 governors go home as a result of the fight against corruption. Now, we cannot run away.
Can you also talk about those who have been accused of corruption and not been taken on the slaughter?
Pardon?
There have been a conversation that corruption as well, the fight against corruption has been weaponized, because we've also heard about counties which have been accused of corruption, but there are people who have been handled with soft gloves. Well, we mentioned like someone like Obado. People have argued that maybe Obado was targeted because of political reasons. Do you think the fight against corruption as well has been weaponized?
I mean, you can say that. I mean, to a certain extent, there are people who hold, that belief that it has been weaponized. But you need to ask yourself, why are they talking about that? It's because of our judicial process. If anyone had anything against Obado politically, I think he would be finished. But there's a due process. The reason why Obado is the governor of Migori and the substantive governor, ODM has even tried to impeach him, but it is impossible. Why? Because there's a due process. And today, there is no political party that has a mechanism for dealing with corrupt elected officials in those political parties. So no political party can come and say that the fight against corruption is something we are contributing to or has been weaponized. Because what they're doing is, If it is touching on their interests, they say it is weaponized. If it is not their interest, they're like, yes, this is the due process. And that's why I'm happy that there are people who are very critical. If it is a corrupt issue, it goes to court. The problem has always been we are quick as journalists, you know, to splash it on the public domain in pages, you know. I mean, Kenyans have accused so many governors, so many political leaders of being corrupt. And when you look at the threshold, you know, the legal procedure is clear-cut. It is not based on public opinion. So if public opinion is weaponizing, then our legal procedure has mitigated that, you know. Even the president himself cannot say that HESBON is corrupt and then the DCI comes to me and I'm arraigned in court and I'm charged. There's a process. And I think Kenyans need to distinguish between that the perception that you're creating that people are corrupt and the due process. But again, coming back to your question, if it has been weaponized, who has weaponized it? Because we've seen the governors who have gone home are essentially governors from the president's party. Kiambu governor from Jubilee, Lenokulol from Jubilee. I mean, all the cabinet secretaries who have gone home or have been arraigned in court. I mean, these are people who are serving at the behest of the president. So why would he weaponize, or why would someone want to weaponize, you know, two arms of the government that he leads to deliver? Weaponize, you know, the executive arm of the government, the few members of parliament who have been arraigned in court, you know, including the one from Western, Honorable Waluke. They're not from opposition. They're actually from the governing coalition. One of them is actually on one faction of Jubilee. So weaponization is a safe way of saying that is a safe way of politicizing the fight against corruption. That if it is touching on my people, I simply say it is weaponized. If it is touching on the other people, I say, yes, we are fighting corruption. And I can tell you, there is no politician in this country today, you know, if you just get the president off the conversation, there is no politician who has at some point supported the DCI and the DPP and EACC in the fight against corruption, and at the same time turned and you know, eaten back their words by saying that they've been weaponized. You know, because they are looking at it in terms of when it is not serving their interest, it is weaponized.
It's weaponized.
When it is serving their interest, they're saying, yeah, this fight is working. You know?
Okay. All right. Willie Keep Corridor says, good morning. Watching from Gilgori show. Your show is very much informative. Asante sana. Boyan, don't defend the corrupt. The idea of having offshore account is purposely for tax evasion and money laundering. The presidents and his associates are guilty as charged. Okay. Nesh Munana says, these are the same arguments that people are using to defend himself. Says a lot about Clan 13173. Matutu says, true. This one is justifying nothing. Yeah? Is he aware of tax obligations of state officers? This narrative of hiding behind family is something used to profile those without well-off family history to portray them as thieves. Okay. Paul Committee says, OWILLA judgment has been impaired by the handshake of the two brothers. Jamil Giboro, this thing is bad manners. I agree. Okay. Saila Sumukwa, why are so much bothered to get the facts where it's a global exposure? Those mentioned should clear their names from the source, and the source tells the world about it. It's not for Kenyans to be persuaded, nor does Kenya have the temperament to even investigate it. Okay. Paul Committee says, remember the funds transfer happened during a regime change. What was the fear? Okay. Senator Steve David Kipruto, yesterday my ears were unfortunate to hear a Kenyatta two apologies say 3 billion or even 5 billion is pocket change to the Kenyattas. This pocket change is a county revenue allocation for all financial year expected to serve over 500,000 people. If Kenyatta was to earn 3 times 12 million in 16 years, 576 million without even spending a shilling. Likewise, if Kenyatta too was to earn 3 times 12 million in 10 years, 360 million, and inflation or even interest, it will not get to 3 billion. Politicians and their immediate family should not be allowed to do business with government. People who wish to create wealth should remain in private sector. Unfortunately, this is a wild fantasy in Kenya. Gili Kiboy says, Gerald Bitok, we build a country by Kenya and build everything in Kenya, not away from Kenya. It's like who Americans is developing and growing. They have this word which says, buy America, build America. kadhalika. Jamil says, so we shouldn't be bothered at all. Swala. Jamil says, we need more than explanation. The details of the expose are ridiculous. Very bad manners. Honorable Sylvia Mulama, my brother HALENDE, good to see you on the tackle. The Pandora offshore saga has no correlation with our very well ingrained corruption. Every Kenyan is entitled to invest abroad as long as the money is genuinely earned. Offshore accounts are tax havens and shrewd businessmen invest as security. Okay. Jimmy Gakeo says bad manners reminds me of Ambrose Weda. William Bogo, what is ODEDE struggling to say? Cesar Walter, how did the money reach Panama offshore accounts? CBK should tell us if they approved a 30 billion shillings transfer. Okay. Marchit, she says double speaking to Uhuru and Raila, guys. Sagon Kiblaga says ODEDE is a government employee. Do you expect him to take on President Kenyatta's dealings? Yet we know the president has muscled parliament and it's only the judiciary that stands. Kenyatta is not patriotic and cares more about his interest. Okay. Bundatich Keme says juzi tu wameshinda wakienda Sugai kuhesabu kuku ya Honorable Ruta kumpea wezi wakubwa kumbe wezi wakubwa wako. Okay. Raymond Kesang asked this brother to define patriotism. Politicians are the ones investing offshore and causing political instability. Mutisha Nzime, documents show that the expansion of the Kenyatta's offshore holdings coincided with Uhuru Kenyatta's political rise, with increasing the layers of secrecy to shield the family's wealth from scrutiny, even as Uhuru solidified his role as a man of the people. This is an extract from the ICIJ report, so we don't need to argue that the offshore were there even before 2003. Liz Mburu says GDP is growing, but the poor are growing poorer. Only the wealthy are getting the benefits of this growth of GDP. And I keep asking myself, when we talk about GDP growing, who is it growing for? Who is the GDP growing for? Sagwanki Blaka says, listening to HESBON talking about our GDP is having grown, yet our debts have skyrocketed. I fail to wonder what he is talking about. Stealing from the future of our children and our grandchildren isn't an achievement. It is selling Kenyans to the Asian dragon and any other smarter states outside there. I have no issues with borrowing as long as it's invested wisely, other than what we have seen, billions of shillings being lost at an alarming rate under the presidency of Kenyatta. Okay. James Mwenda, Mr. HESBON speaking from ignorance. Well, okay. He should read more about the ICIJ and the consequences of the last expose, the Panama Papers. Mera is just not setting how people are beside themselves to defend secrecy and stashing money abroad. This guy has oaked the whole show, telling us his limited opinion, and Bitok is not challenging him. Okay, it's not my duty to challenge. I've asked questions. It's my job to ask questions. Livland Otieno, good morning, guys. Sorry, kumbe my data was off, and here I was thinking Chiloba switched you off. Oh, okay. Liz Mburu, what commitment to fight corruption? We have just been subjected to mere lip service and innuendos. Tindra, Bitok, please, fair moderation. Asada Tindra. Jeff Sika, Gerald Bitok, your panelists except Joe are really trying hard to defend the president. It is clear something is not right with regards to Pandora documents. Okay. Liz Mburu, those governors and CSS failed to toe a certain line. It has nothing to do with seeking integrity in government. Cleveland Otieno, I told you yesterday, HESBON OWILLA opinion about government changed after the handshake same to ODM party. We need honesty in fighting corruption. David Maru, Bitok, you have two wrong panelists today for this discussion. Consider bringing unbiased ones and again tomorrow on the same discussion. All right, okay. Liz Mburu, I totally agree. This guy is insulting our intelligence. Cleveland Otieno, kindly ask HESBON his opinion regarding CAS appointments and the court ruling. Nesh Munena, is HESBON OWILLA pretending to be the only visitor in Jerusalem? We all know the so-called fight against corruption is cosmetic at best. The only people that hide in Panama are only drug dealers, human traffickers, looters, and tyrants. Rekio Masio OWILLA should name those ministers that has been dismissed by Uhuru due to corruption. Elvis Asen, this is just a PR for client 13173. Mora Gede says GB will fuel price go down on 13 October. That's the most important. Anukubaya. Akuna, yesterday they have said there is no fuel deduction. Sahau hiyo kitu. Baba alisema next week bei inashuka na Matiang'i, lakini sasa jana wamesema kuna kitu inashuka chini. And now guys, as we try and wrap this conversation, I want us to draw, now that someone has brought in a new angle, I want us to draw the reaction between Matiang'i's expose and Parliament about William Ruto and his properties. How was the reaction vis-a-vis the reaction about the billions that are stashed outside? Do you think there's fairness in opinion as well? Because we're talking about public opinion and the way the whole thing has been spun. Do you feel, I'll start with you, Oded. Oh, I think you are the last to speak. KHALENDE, how do you judge the same comparison on how we react to news on corruption or suspected corruption from different quarters?
The way I can say this is that the truth is always the best shield against corruption.
Okay.
And sunlight is the best sanitizer. what we want as Kenyans is the truth. Whatever has been said or whatever has been alleged against William Ruto, he has come out, he has said, he has confirmed what he owns and what he does not own. To an extent that this lifestyle audit narrative has always started and ended with William Ruto. This corruption fight has always started and ended with William Ruto or close allies to William Ruto. And that begs the question. Since the president promised us 21 days, he will reveal the culprits of who stole the COVID money. Up to today, the president has never faced Kenyans to tell Kenyans the truth behind COVID. The president told Kenyans that he will provide evidence or contracts that were involved in SGR. Up to today, the president has never revealed the contracts of SGR. So the truth will always be the best shield against corruption, regardless of whom, whether it's me. And the funny part, these people who are lecturing us about corruption or who are fighting about corruption, whenever they're asked about their wealth, they always tell us, our grandfather, our father. It is the property of our grandfather. Then the other characters, if they ask about their wealth, they are told that their wealth is stolen. So that is where we need to sort out this issue. And the corruption in this country is a criminal offense. There is no way a lawyer will come out and say, I've been targeted because I'm a lawyer. If you are corrupt, you are corrupt. We'll face the full force of the law. So you cannot hide behind a tribe, you cannot behind your community, or you cannot hide behind your grandfather or father. Then what about us who don't have grandfather and fathers who looted? And ODEDE has said that if you are handling stolen property, whether it's from your grandfather, it is stolen property. Then there's something I want to bring in. Robert Riech, he's a professor and he served as the Secretary of Labor in the Obama administration. He wrote a book about saving capitalism for the many, not for the few. Through this book, Robert explained how our economy has been rigged to only help the few. These few have created phantom wealth. That's why if you go to US, there are these people who fancy calling themselves philanthropists. These are people who have created phantom wealth. What is phantom wealth? This is wealth. It's massive wealth that an individual has created that is untaxable, that it cannot be explained. That's why you are seeing these philanthropists today, they are inventing ways of going to the mass. And yet, the common mwananchi is languishing in poverty. These are the same people who are enjoying the economy that has been rigged to create phantom wealth and go and start it in Panama, in Cayman. This is what we are saying, that if we does not fix our economy so that a common individual with his business that has capital of 3,000 can also enjoy the same creation of wealth like an individual who has billion and he has touched in Panama. What we are saying that we need to fix our economy so that everybody can enjoy. We are not saying that we are fixing our economy to take money from those who have created wealth, phantom wealth. We are saying we are fixing our economy so that those at the bottom can also enjoy. Can also, when the government say that our GDP has grown, so that even the common mama mboga should say that hata mimi kwa account yangu 1,000 iliingia. If we say the GDP has grown. The funny story that we need to dig deeper with this offshore account, we need to ask ourselves the origin of this offshore story, or the origin of this creation of offshore account. The people who started the offshore account things are drug barons. These are the Colombian drug dealer who was called Escobar. This is how it originated. So anybody among that list in the Pandora's box, in the Pandora's paper, is not somebody who has created real clean money. If you go behind, these are political leaders. If you go back to their country, it's having problem. It's having corruption issue. It's having money laundering issue. It's having issues to do with illegal money. That's why leaders have been judged harshly in serious country. Look at the UK. And I'm telling Kenyans to watch the family of Tony Blair. Tony Blair does not have the local standard, but he's a close friend of a certain family in this country, and both have been named in the Pandora's paper. The Pandora's paper there's no way you can tie it with 2022. The only thing is that the truth should be our shield against corruption, and the truth must come out. That directs it to ESCC, to DCI, to KRA, and asset recovery. They need to take up the initiative. The way they have been following up my village mate Chris Okemo and Gishuru to get back the money which was stashed in a Cayman Island, that's the same way this government agency should follow up with this money and give Kenyans a true picture of how this one family can be able to stash wealth in a foreign country. And the Kenyatas need to teach Kenyans how to do business in this pandemic period. Because it is only that family that is making billions and billions of money. And yet the common mwananchi is suffering. And if you want to know the proof of state capture, the other day, one bank was merging with the other bank. That bank is alleged, and I'm using the word alleged,
You better use that
with
word.
that family. And they managed to get a tax break of 4 billion. Then you ask yourself, why this certain family is touching wealth? Because they can be able to capture this country, manipulate parliament to make laws. The truth of the matter, these same people who own this Brookside company, they wanted to have policy in this country that for you cannot milk your cow and sell milk directly to your neighbor. It was that policy was that you need to milk your cow and use their company to sell milk to your neighbor.
They didn't say their company, just said process the milk.
Yes.
So it can be anybody
So
processing it.
you can see the state capture with these people. But the best way, and Kenyans need to know this, the only way to correct the ill in this country is through the ballots, through the recognized democratic process. That's the only way we can have an economic revolution in this country, so that the wealth can continue creating their wealth, and the person at the bottom of the pyramid can also create wealth. Let us not have a society where we only have few billionaires and very many people languishing in poverty. Let us have a country where wewe ukimake milioni yako, hata mimi kana make elfu yangu, I'm comfortable. Then we can move on.
Haya, kabla ndio nikupe ODEDE. So you've been paying a lot of attention. Eunice Chamtase, good morning, watching and following from Kabianga. Asante sana. Bernard Isaka, good morning. Atticus now, all the way from the UK, good morning, watching from London, UK. Good to see you. Daniel Bosby, good morning. GB, watching live from Sydney. Thank you guys from Sydney, Australia. Atticus now says you can't forget people to vote you. Okay, it's not all right. Atticus now says spots on HESBON. Frederick Juma, Jera Bito, good morning my brother, happy to be on the tackle today, great conversation, great panelist. Atticus now, that's Sante Gilbert Bowen, good morning man, the show today is burning. Joe is the man of the show. Vision Total Football Kenya from the UK. Bitok is the parliament that has failed Kenyans. It has the powers to legislate and effect actions, but MPs has become eclairs and protectors of their party leaders and has failed Wanjiku big time. Newton Amoke, Bitok is always getting the best topics to discuss. Asante sana, big up, keep it moving. Asante sana Newton. Because now there is no war on graft. Don't fool yourself. All politicians are thieves. You think they'll right themselves? Okay. HESBON, Kenyatta is a liar. He'll keep stealing. That is Atika's vision from the UK. The economy has been growing, but for a few. And at the macro level, what Kenya needs is economic growth for the masses and put more money in the pockets of poor, including reducing taxes to the lowly paid. Frederick Juma, HESBON has really addressed pertinent issues on this Pandora story and has brought out different perspectives to see the whole issue with clarity and understand what it's all about. Freddy Kangwana, they should also go to Brookside and count all cows as they did to Dr. OWSR's cuckoos. Okay. But in Anami, there is something that we need to get clear. Investment in tax havens is not a crime. What we need to get clear is, according to the Constitution, his status as a president. Did he declare? All right. David Akero, it's not whether it's legal or not. It's the fact that you have no confidence in storing your own money in your own country where you have control. Okay. So Alanyeti, Odede, kwako.
What is the question, Gerard? Because Joe has spoken.
What you are saying is,
including things that I didn't hear you asking.
There's a viewer.
The question.
Okay, there's a viewer who had come in and was bringing in a perspective like, why is it that the reaction between Matiang'i's expose in Parliament and the reaction to Panama billions on Pandora papers. Do you think there's a strange line in between the reactions that they're saying? Because now we are saying, no, guys, don't worry, maybe he's made his money, it's fine. But the other side was, wow, this person is corrupt, this person is a thief.
I don't remember. I think the parliament just summoned Matiang'i.
You also hear counting cuckoos around that time. Okay.
No, Gerard, we need to set the truth on the table.
Yes. And also the commitment on the fight against corruption.
The whole thing did not come from elsewhere. It is the DP's office and his bloggers and the likes of Joe who claimed to the country one morning that DP's security has been withdrawn. It is not Matiang'i who went to parliament and said, we have withdrawn the security of the DP. That is where the story started. And that must be stated very clear. So there is no comparison between these two things. And when they claimed, I think even Mugonyi wrote official letter that the DP's security has been withdrawn or downsized or something like that. And then the parliament were concerned. This is number 2 of the country. This is a constitutional office holder who deserved to have the security. So Matiang'i come here. And the parliamentary committee summoned Matiang'i to say, is what we are seeing or hearing true? And then Matiang'i said is beat. I don't think it is anywhere close to this. This is just a paper somewhere which decided to do their journalism at their best, and they found out that there are some money, and they told us the complexity by which the money is kept, and they didn't tell us where the money came from. So we are picking it from there. So how do you even try to compare the two? As to whether the cuckoos were counted and all that, and the perception that has been created, if I use your words, around the country, around DP, the personality of DP, I don't think it matters. Let perception be accompanied by some signs and evidence that are credible enough. Is William Ruto the man corrupt or not? If you ask me, I will go to the evidence. Do I have some evidence that are pointing that this man could be corrupt? Yes. There are cases in court. Some were concluded and he was told to pay. Whether he paid, I don't know. Or the land of Muteshi was tried in the court of law. And at the time, he is deputy president. So you can't tell me that somebody was actually against him using the state powers to persecute him. He was the second in command, and they were very good friends with the president then. And the court declared that you need to pay this man the money or return his land. So if I am a Kenyan and I do not want to go on any side of the story, I would stick with that evidence that this man was found guilty somewhere. There, we saw the land of Weston going to court. It is still in court until today. And the indications are there that the Civil Aviation Authority are claiming that this is their land. And this case is being followed every day. I can tell about the tear gassing of the Langata Children's Primary School. We can talk about some things that have gone through our judicial system and are being tested and tried. Where has the Kenyatas been in court to answer any question around these monies? Nowhere.
But so for them, they always tell us it's from their father. Then you take them to court and they so explain. The court have got the authority and ability to investigate and see that your father stolen this and we are repossessing. But because we have the no, but the wealth is there and the recovery agency is there. They can repossess all that and bring it back to us. When things like KANU, for example, were looting government facilities, Gideon inherited KANU. But the government, when Kibaki came in, the government repossessed KICC. Don't you understand that KICC was already KANU's? But it was repossessed. We didn't say that, oh, Gideon said this one was his father's. No, it was just repossessed. So why don't we just do the right thing? Because we can actually go to court if somebody has something against the Kenyatas. I am not saying the Kenyatas are clean.
I am just saying, on one side, I have evidence that cases are in court. On one side, I still have stories going on. That is all I am saying.
All right. HESBON, I don't know if you're still there with us. HESBON, you're still there with us.
Yes, I'm still here with you.
Do you have any comments to make?
What do you have to say about the Kenyatas?
I mean, I've listened to the responses that your fans on the digital platform are giving. And let me just say this. One, no one is abetting or supporting corruption. What we are saying is very simple. That someone is only corrupt if there is enough evidence that is adduced in a court of law that meets that threshold. And this idea of parading people with allegations can only do so much in the perception that is created as far as the fight against corruption is concerned. Then number two, no one has a problem with what the Panama Papers have done. It is clear that we are talking about money. But when we are having conversations around money and who owns what, it doesn't amount to corruption or any wrongdoing.
Okay.
What we are saying is that an expose must, as a matter of fact, go deeper and create pathways that would help us understand that there is criminal culpability. There is money that has been stashed, and the proceed of that money is from criminal activities, either money laundering, stolen from public coffers, or drug money. So when people comment and say that why are we supporting, no one is supporting anything. We're just saying that for Kenyans to have a robust, conversation around the Panama Papers, we need to see to what extent is this money originating from a criminal source, and what is the criminal nature that you're talking about here. And then number three, that has been raised again from the comment, is the issue of economic growth. And I think I've made it clear. I didn't say that we are better off as a country because our GDP has grown. I went further and talked about the conversation now should be, if our GDP has more than doubled, what can we do as a country to ensure that that doubling of the GDP is reflected in my pocket, is reflected in my business, is reflected in what I can spend, what I can save, and what I can invest. That is where the next conversation should go. And I like what Joe has said, that when it is not working for you, when a regime is not working for you, and you live in a democracy, you have the power. And the power is in getting that regime out of power through the ballot. Let as many Kenyans go and register. And if between 2013 and 2020, and today, you think you're worse off, the only thing you can do is send Jubilee home, and anything that Jubilee supports, and anyone that Jubilee fronts, send them home through the ballot. Now, critical here is that we live in a democracy. There is no leader in this country who is going to be given power through the ballot forever. They will be given for a limited period of 5 years. And those 5 years are for Kenyans to assess whatever they are doing. Is it in the interest of Kenyans? Is it taking our lives from one space to another better space? If it is not, there is always an alternative. And you can use your ballot to do that alternative. And then lastly, let me just say that we should not be preoccupied with a lot of issues. We should actually try and interrogate. And critically, we should right now be asking ourselves, will our power in the next election really make a difference? Because if we are to give the right people that power and know that whoever is going to take the reins of running this country is someone we've elected, we need to start asking ourselves, what do we have in place to ensure that the vote that we are going to cast in August next year will be a reflection of the will of Kenyans, and no one is going to interfere with the will of Kenyans. Those are the conversations we need to ask ourselves. Because at the end of the day, there is very little we can do once we've given that power. But we need to be sure that that power is going to someone who we are going to give on the basis of information, and nothing in the electoral process, will stop our will, from being expressed through the ballot.
Okay.
For me, those are the critical conversations that we need to have. And if someone feels that, there's something in these Panama Papers that makes them believe that we are in a dispensation of led by corrupt individuals, you have the power. You have the power as a voter. You just use that power.
All right. Okay. Now finally, because it's Siasa Wednesday, we close in with Siasa. Today's Standard has thrown in a jembe in the works. They are saying that in the organization of politics, Musalia Mudavadi could be the S card that is going to run the Oka card, or is it that's going to lead the union of Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, Rolly's gentleman Gideon Moi, and all that. I don't know what you guys make of the organization as we go forward towards 2022 elections. KHALENDE, do you agree with Standard that Musalia Mudavadi could be the S card?
I always have a view. Mudavadi comes from the Mulembe nation where I come from, and I strongly believe Mudavadi will be a serious candidate, and Mudavadi will be elected in this country come 2032. For now, I will vote for Mudavadi in 2032. But for now, the race has already been decided. It has already, there are it's a two-horse race. It is the Raila versus William Samoei Ruto. Mudavadi needs to find a way and realign himself with either Raila side or William Ruto's side. And since we analyze politics, we operate in this political field, I will tell Mudavadi and I will advise Mudavadi to support William Samoei Ruto.
Okay.
Unconditionally for 10 years. Then Mudavadi will enjoy the support the same way.
Mumeanza tena yangu kumi yake kumi.
The same way.
You starting another fraud.
Yeah, not a fraud. The same way William Ruto is enjoying the support across the Mount Kenyan side. It is because of the political commitment and the political strategy he used in 2013. Mudavadi needs to find a way, because currently Mudavadi doesn't have those political gravitas, that oomph to make him to have a stab in 2022. But he can use his support to William Ruto to gain the political gravitas and the support needed for him to contest in 2032. Others are saying he should support Raila Amolo Odinga. But I strongly believe Raila Amolo Odinga's constituency, nobody can inherit it unless you are Raila Amolo Odinga himself. That's when you can inherit his constituency. Because minus Raila Amolo Odinga, that constituency is going to disintegrate into small constituencies that will go in different directions. Yes.
Okay. Odede, do you think Musalia Mudavadi is Uhuru silver bullet?
From where I sit, no.
You're actually sitting here.
Of course, I'm sitting in your studio, but looking at Uhuru and Musalia, I think it is far from that. Uhuru is now in the business of retiring and making sure that while he is at home in Ishaweri, he still leads the political aspect of Mount Kenya, and also his businesses, especially the family business and friends,
and the Pandora
are not disturbed.
Okay.
And this is what he is trying to do. So he is going to try and have someone he knows have the ability to put together a fight in case anybody comes for him and his wealth. And that is the truth.
Okay.
That one is not Musalia. Musalia is a safe pair of hands. There are times when you go to war, you do not need safe pairs of hands. You need hands that can fight for you and that is not Musalia. 2013 was there. He was supposed to be that. And
then Madimoni happened.
we don't know what happened, but some people told Uhuru that's a wrong move and it cannot happen. Are those people still alive? Are they still controlling?
I don't know that.
If yes, I mean, you and I do not know the inner story. But all we know is Musalia has come out open and said, walikuja na William wakakula mandazi yangu na chai. Wakaniambia, they are making me president. See, he said that. And then,
William Akwa. William ndiye alikuja kugeuza huko
Multimedia. Drive themselves according to Musalia. And wakakuja mpaka kwa nyumba wakakula mandazi yake na chai. Wakamwambia they are making him president. Only in the evening anaona kwa TV Uhuru akisema Madimoni. So there are people who went and told Uhuru this is not happening. So I am wondering, you and I must be wondering, are those people still there? And do Uhuru still listen to them? Because if this story were to be true, we must consider those people. They might come again and tell Uhuru, no. Even this time, no. Again, Madimoni would happen the second time. At the beginning of Uhuru's term and at the end of Uhuru's term. So I don't see the credibility of this story in terms of evidence-based. I would have loved to hear that those people are there, and this time they have told Uhuru now, go for this guy now. That would be
the truth of the matter to save ODEDE from too much explanation is that Mudavadi is being managed. So that he does not gravitate towards Hustler Nation. That's the truth of the matter. Mudavadi is being managed.
Hustlers so desperate for Musalia.
We are not.
That's how you sound.
Not that we are so desperate. Actually, if you look at Mudavadi, whatever Mudavadi say, Mudavadi has criticized this government. Mudavadi has criticized this economy. Mudavadi is speaking of what Hustler Nation is saying. Actually, Mudavadi is using Hustler Nation manifesto to campaign. So Mudavadi is gravitating towards Hustler Nation. And some people somewhere feel like if Mudavadi goes the Hustler Nation way, it's a game shot. So he's being managed to be told that you can hang around, we can promise you something. Then we asked ourselves, why is it that these Okoa people have the same problem? Even Kalonzo told us in 2013 that Uhuru and William Ruto drove to his home, asked him to be part of the KK formation, he will be endorsed to be the president. Whatever happened, he doesn't understand. How he ended up with Raila Amolo Odinga, that was an afterthought. Because he said he was promised. The truth of the matter again also.
But these guys again are waiting for the same thing, for the endorsement, all of them.
All of them are waiting for the endorsement. This
Like
is
2013. Also, what do they expect different?
Also something that ODEDE has...
Maliza nipe HESBON na maliza.
ODEDE has talked about Uhuru trying to, when he retires, so that he can continue influencing the government and the votes in Mount Kenya. And the question that Kenyans are asking themselves is, if you have served this country diligently, and you think that you have done your best, why get worried when you are in your retirement? You need to be taking care of your grandchildren. Not worry what is happening with this country or whoever takes over from you. Why does Uhuru need protection from a stooge who he has installed in power to protect his family wealth if that wealth is legitimate? So it shows the ill things that certain people have been doing in this country, and they are running away and they want to insulate themselves by installing stooges who are going to protect themselves. And I will advise ODEDE to go and tell Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga he should not accept that endorsement. Because Kenyans are tired of Pandora's revelation. Kenyans are tired of the corruption in this country. Kenyans are tired of the Kenyatta ill government. HESBON OWILLA said,
no, you should
anybody who is going to represent Jubilee,
let's give to HESBON.
Anybody who is going to represent Jubilee,
HESBON.
Kenyans should not vote
KHALENDE.
for that person.
Let's give
You should have told us who Raila should accept.
Yes, Gerald.
Yes, sir, please take it up.
I think KHALENDE is misrepresenting what I'm saying. I didn't say that anyone who represents Jubilee should be shown the door. I just said that Kenyans should base their decisions on information. If the assessment of what the Jubilee government has done in the last 9 years, and that would be 10 years in 2022,
and we know
tells
who
them
those
that
are.
it has made them worse off, then they have a reason to vote out Jubilee and anything supported by Jubilee.
Anything
But
that
if
has
there are
been part
Kenyans
of Jubilee.
who believe that in the last 10 years, they've seen growth both at the macro and the micro level, and they can attest to a government that has laid a framework which needs to be sustained and continued, then there is a high likelihood that they need to, look at where the white smoke is. But having said that, I think it's also important that we put a few things in perspective. Even if someone was to endorse anyone, there has to be a threshold. If you want someone who will protect you, if you want a safe pair of hands, you can only have that once that person has won an election. And I think those are the critical issues. This coalition of Niatie needs to be alive to.
But they are all presidential candidates.
Yeah. Someone will only endorse you if that endorsement will make a difference. And it can only make a difference if you also have some political clout. You have a solid base that needs just a little bit of propping and you win. And that's why many serious pundits are talking about a two-horse race. They can never be wrong. I mean, it can't be more spot on than that. But if you're looking at anyone who has a stab on this, from ground zero, if everyone was to contest, even if all of them were to contest, we know that number 1 and 2 will be Raila and Ruto. That we know. Whoever will be number 1 or 2, we don't know. But we know 1, 2 will be Raila and Ruto. And that's why it has become a big, awakening, stark reality for Tanga Tanga. But the narrative that they've always had, that selling Raila in Mount Kenya region is like selling pork in Mecca, has been dismantled terribly. Because it only took Raila 2 days to traverse Mount Kenya from Nanyuki to Kiambu and enter Nairobi in grand style. And the entire narrative. And I've said this, the last time I was on a platform with ANALYST, I also made this statement, that if Kenyans believe that this tribe and that tribe is like this or like that, they have that belief because they have learned. And the demonization of Raila has come out that it is something that they did not just learn, it is something that they were taught. Now, if the people who taught them have come back and told them that, by the way, we were doing this because of political contest, it is not because Raila is this.
Now they are teaching them to hate another one, a new one.
No, I'm not teaching. I'm just
I'm saying them. I'm saying them. The same guys.
Yes, I'll come back to the deputy president. So there is the unlearning process that is taking place, and if people learned something, they can learn many other things. Because belief, support is like culture. It's something that we learn. Now, if that unlearning takes place, then it means that the only thing that Raila needs is access to the Mount Kenya region. And he will get a sizable population from that. But that in itself cannot take Raila anywhere if he loses his traditional base. And the conversation was, you get Mount Kenya, you disenfranchise other bases. But he has since gone to Western and gone to the Northeastern. And we are actually seeing that his base is fairly consolidated. And therefore, the people who are talking, let me not talk about Luo Nyanza, because I think it's fairly understandable that they are solidly behind Raila. If they voted for Raila since 1997, there is no reason why in 2022 they would decide not to vote for him. But why is that contest going to be between the Right Honorable Raila Odinga and the Deputy President? It is simple. Because even the Deputy President, in his time with President Uhuru Kenyatta, built a massive grassroots political clout in areas beyond his Rift Valley strong base. So in central Kenya, whether we like it or not, he has a head start. And whatever Raila is doing is basically to try and help people in central Kenya and learn the negative stereotypes they had against him and entrench himself. So Raila is the one who is eating into Ruto's solid base. and in Mount Kenya. And if Ruto manages to protect that and sells himself and the bottom-up approach in the other regions, and Kenyans buy his bottom-up approach.
Is it bottoms up or bottom up?
Bottom up, not bottom. Yes, let me just correct that. Yeah. I mean, if that is sold, I think we'll have a very solid contest. And I think what is encouraging in the run-up to 2023 is the fact that Kenyans have begun listening. I don't know that it's because of COVID-19, but we've moved away from those big political rallies to much more controlled crowds that can interrogate these political leaders. And what we need to see going forward is people need to interrogate, this is Raila Odinga, what do you stand for? How does this economic model that you're proposing of migrating SMEs to large,
rural development
players work? What are you going to do? What does rural development mean to a native of Suna East like myself? What exactly are you thinking about rural development in different parts of this country? It's the same thing with bottom-up approach. What exactly does it mean? And I think they need to start by articulating the key indicators of bottom-up approach. If they succeed in that, and they build that hustler nation, narrative in a more constructive way that does not create the wedge between, different economic classes, we'll have a contest. But the rest, I think, for the simple fact that you cannot support someone who does not have a threshold, we can conclusively say that Joe Alende has been spot on for so many, for a few things in this platform. But one where he has been extremely spot on is that, yes, Mudavadi will win an election, most likely 2032.
All right. Asanteni sana wangwana for coming in. It's been a pleasure having you. Kathleen, nani nasema hapa tisipo kukula mandazi ya Musali. Okay. Let me see just a few comments very quickly as we close in. Silas Muko says, Ndugu land report highlighted my friend who stole which land and where. Meshak Mwenda, Meshak also needs to read about ICIJ. Please encourage the panelists to read more about world affairs. Wache siasa mashinani too. Abbas Njuguna says reasons why guys don't care if the country sinks into chaos from their silly political games. Martini Binot says, I see the media trying to sanitize Kenyatta family. What about if it was DP Ruto? Hypocrisy of the Estod. Okay. James Minor, in United Kingdom, Muru is hiding tax. That's the news. Tindra says, Bitok, so corruption should be fought legally when it's Uhuru and company, but when it's Ruta, Kamata is the legality. Okay. Senator Steve Kibro says, clean people don't use offshore accounts. Cleveland, have we asked ourselves if it's indeed the Chinese loans building on infrastructure or looted savings in offshore accounts? Mora, alikuwa mambo ya fuel. James Wanda HESBON Bwana, Raila has not made any progress in Mount Kenya. The only way Raila can get more votes in Mount Kenya than 2017 is if he joins UDA. Don't be fooled by a crowd in Kithurai. Even a madman can attract a huge crowd in Kithurai. Martin Goni, it's really a shame that the work of almost 5,000 journalists would be discredited by the likes of OWILLA. Is totally unacceptable. Kedlin Kate, is really pathetic to see people defending Uhuru Pandora exposure while their fellow Kenyans struggling to make ends meet while someone is bidding millions of dollars secret accounts. Okay. So mambo wa Kenya hiyo. Atticus now says, thanks for the program. Bitok asante sana, that's on YouTube. David Akero, it's not whether it's legal. I think I enjoyed that. Newton Omoke, I don't any of the sycophants of Uhuru or any only one will ever get to fight corruption. We should elect new and focused leaders. Atticus, now everybody knows that the executive took away Ruta security. I don't support Ruta, but the DP needs its security. This is Nyaya all over again. Atticus, now after Raila dies, the Luo nation will be free. No one commands their attention more than Raila. On that, I agree. Miguna was the closest. That is why they kicked him out of the country. Okay. Thomas Ocheng, General Bito falling from Ugunja. Kenya will only have a chance with the fifth Dr. William Samuel Ruto as the president. Will Baronomics Nyale. Sijui Nyale ni nini? Odede atatuambia. Thomas Ochieng, Clan 13173. Just finish your term and go. Kenyans, we can't breathe. Jenga Willa is a typical and informed Luo. Allah gets excited with the Munden staff. Rao at 80 is too old to lead anything. Kenya is not about Odinga and Kenyatta's families. Haya, na maoni ya Kenya kwenye Siasa Wednesday. Siasa Wednesday tacos ni hivyo. Mambo ni inakuwa hivyo, tackle after tackle. It's been a pleasure having you, Owilla. HESBON, it's your first time on the tackle. Karibu tena.
Yeah, your fans have very serious tackles.
These guys are tacklers, but this is a tackle. It happens real time.
And by the way, just for the records, I did not dismiss the work of...
I mean, you raised very pertinent questions. Even me,
Yes.
from where I sit, those are questions we should be asking. Because I think these guys led us to a field. It's like the SDR. They led us to some land in the middle of nowhere. And they're not telling us where we're coming from and where we should be going. So, I mean, those are pertinent questions. Where did the money come from? What do you expect from this report? The sponsor, yes, it raises questions. But then again, the fundamental things are not there. The questions. So, I mean, you raise very pertinent questions that I think we should all raise as Kenyans. You've given us the expose. We need to find the end of it so that we're able to pin these people. Otherwise, it'll just be another report. This guy will come back from America and he'll tell us, oh, guys, I made this money. I made it with my father made it. I'm not my father. My father is dead. Go and look for him at KICC. And Kenyans forget and we move on. The pertinent questions have not been raised. And I agree with you. There are very serious questions that we must ask about this report that will give us an end into the whole thing.
Thank you.
Asante, Odede. Asante kwa kuja. Kalende. Asante sana. The guys on YouTube and Facebook, it's always a pleasure to have you. Let's keep asking these questions. This country will be changed by conversations, nothing else. The more we talk about the issues, the more we converse, the more we interrogate things, the more we're able to get a proper leadership. Until tomorrow on the Diaspora edition, where the Diaspora guys, the Kenyans in Diaspora will be able to run with. I'll see.
People in Matayos to register.
Oh, to register.
The young people in Matayos constituency need to register.
Kuleni kura. So, kwa hivyo guys, IBC started on Monday, the exercise of registering new voters. If you don't have a voter's card, please go and register. There's no way you're going to talk. We'll make all these noises, but if you cannot get on the ballot and make a decision, my friend, it's all useless. And I think the Diaspora edition as well, they're raising very pertinent questions. I saw in the group tomorrow, they're asking why they're not being given an opportunity to vote, and they're Kenyans in diaspora. So I think these are conversations that we must begin to have. But wherever you are, you can register wherever you are. Hii mambo ya kuenda ushago. Watu wa Matayos kufunga kitanda kwenda kukata kura. Tafadhali wachana na hiyo tabia. Kama uko Nairobi, kata kura Nairobi, you can make a decision on what is going to run in the country, because this is where you live, is where you stay. Kama unafanya kazi, mambo ya kukimbia ushago kupiga kura wachaneni nayo. Wherever you are, please ensure that you get a voter's card. Voting is the highest level, is the highest role of a patriotic Kenya. Chukua kura. Kura yako, sauti yako. Bye bye. Na tuonane kesho.